Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So we are gathered tonight so that we can discuss Chapter 1 of the book, The Complete How-To Guide for Notaries, that you can purchase on the National Notary Association website. If you are a member, of course, you do have access to a digital copy, so you don't have to have a hard copy. Hopefully, either way, you guys are going to be following along with me with Chapter 1. I'll also be sharing my screen so that you can see Chapter 1 on the screen, okay?
Okay.
All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. It's not showing the other window. Why is it not showing the other one? Maybe let me take it off like that. And then maybe I can do it. Let's try again. Oh, yep, here it goes. All right. Now, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Are you guys able?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, awesome. All right, so hopefully everyone got a chance to read Chapter 1. It wasn't that lengthy. Did everyone get a chance to read it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I want to start off with a few questions before I start off with the questions that I want to ask about the chapter, okay? So my first question for you all is, what has been your initial experience with the Notary Public?
For refinance.
Okay. Anybody else?
For me, it was refinance, and I used to work at a credit union, so we would have people come in and sign.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I had some rights at FedEx once.
Okay. All right.
I had something notarized recently through Ron.
Okay, cool. How was that experience doing it remote?
It was actually pretty good. I like the fact that I didn't have to leave my house, and me being a
Yeah.
notary, having to request another notary, it was kind of like weird because I was kind of like analyzing him while he was doing it. But it was pretty cool. I actually like it.
Okay.
Great.
My very first experience with a notary, I wasn't getting something notarized myself. I went with my grandmother, and she ended up getting a will notarized at the courthouse. I didn't really get a chance to see what they did. They kind of like had us sign, and then she kind of walked off and walked back. I don't remember her having us fill out a journal or anything, like sign a journal or anything. I don't even remember any of that. My second one was a Ron. I did my I applied for a virtual mailbox, and I got the application notarized using the online platform through Notarize. And that's what spiked my interest into being a notary. I kind of picked his brain a little bit, and he told me some information. I was like, oh, okay. It's like, well, I'm gonna look into that. So that was my experience. 2 experiences, I guess. Anybody else want to share an initial experience?
My husband, when we were doing our refi, my husband said, oh, that lady sounded really nice on the phone. She sounded super happy. And I said, what? She's a notary. So when she came, I said, so you like your job? And she was like, yeah, I love my job. And I was like, what do you do? How do you make it work? And she told me after she did all the refinance, she took a few minutes with us, and I was like, I'm in. That sounds awesome.
I like people like that who are willing to share what they do with people instead of treating it like a secret. You know, you have some people, you ask them, how did you do it? You know, how'd you get to, oh, you know, it was a whole lot. It's too much to explain. And you're like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, she was great. She still talks to me. Yeah, it was super good.
All right. That's Awesome. All right. So my next question, why did you decide to become a notary public?
I think I just said that one.
Anybody want to jump in
Just
and answer that one?
want to help people. Want to be there.
That's me as well. I like helping people, and I already have a travel agency, and I was looking to add another service, but I wanted it to be a service that I knew would actually help people, and it wasn't just something where I was just kind of being gimmicky and things like that. So when I stumbled upon, the notary, it just really intrigued me and made me want to look more into it. So I'm glad that I did.
Oh, cool.
For me, it was the fact that like I worked in the accounting industry for so many years, like over 20 years. And then I
Mhm.
realized like, that wasn't something I wanted to do. Like I got burnt out and I got bored. And I wanted to be somewhere where like I could just be out, I could make my own schedule and I could kind of like move freely. So it
Mhm.
was pretty much like an opportunity for me to connect with other people. And
Yeah.
then it was just like, okay, well, this is cool. Like my mom is like, I'm always organized and I always like being all detailed and writing all of this stuff out and this, and the third. So it was just like, it kind of was, it made sense,
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyone else want to share?
I'll
Uh,
share before. I used to work at a law firm and they trying to get me to become a paralegal and to get my notary. So I kind of just had it in the back of my mind for a really long time. And now that I'm in a new place, trying new things, I was like, let me try this and work for myself. So I'm trying it.
cool. All right. Awesome. I'm happy to hear that. Welcome to whoever just joined.
Hi.
The last question that I was asking is, why did you decide to become a notary public? Did you want to share?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got on. I'm still at work, my regular job. So
Okay.
sorry.
No worries. No worries.
I'm on the West Coast, so I'm on West Coast time a little bit. And I
Okay.
decided to join because I am planning to retire sometime this year, and I
All
still want
right.
to work. And I
Okay.
don't want to work. I don't want a job that's extremely stressful because the one I have now is a little bit. So I want to do something. I'm sure this has some stress too. I'm sure there's some stress involved. I'm not naive. So, but I want to do something a little different than what I've done. So,
Okay.
mhm.
And that's exciting, and congratulations to you with, retiring soon. I can't wait till I get there. Definitely. Now, my last question, and then I'm going to go on to the book. How did you learn about Notary Public, about becoming a Notary Public? Like what, where did you look to gain more information? I guess is what I want to know.
And you are talking to me.
I'm talking to everybody.
Oh,
I go out and I joined a lot of Facebook groups and I looked at what they're saying and I asked questions and I went from there.
Okay.
I mean, I started out like a few years ago, like in Maryland. And it was also
Oh,
because I was working in real estate. And then,
okay.
so it was kind of like cool, like, okay, I think I just want to be a notary. It was like there wasn't a rhyme or reason. And then I moved to like, it really wasn't. And then I moved to New York and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then I didn't do it. And then I finally, when I moved to Florida, I was like, okay, I think I should get my notary license. And it was like one of those things because like New York, you had to take a test, and I'm like, oh, I don't
Oh,
want to take a test. Like in Maryland, I didn't have to. And then I moved to
okay.
Florida, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I get to meet different people. It's still part of like that like real estate industry. And here I
Mm-hmm.
go with my task list and checklist and signing here and this and the third. So it was just like a cool opportunity, especially here in Florida.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
But I did do a lot of Google searches, and I
Mhm.
did go on like the Secretary of State's website, and I kind of did like my homework before like signing up just to see what it all entails and stuff like that.
All right. Good. Good. I actually knew nothing about Facebook groups when I first started. So I did a lot of YouTubing and I did a lot of reading on my Secretary of State website. And I kept seeing the ads come up and I'm trying to think, it wasn't LSS. It was another guy that keeps popping up. He wears glasses. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
his name.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Mark
I
Willis.
don't- I can't
Is that
remember
him?
his-
Okay. I watched his video and he was the one who was saying that once you join his program and you graduate from the course, that he has a private Facebook group. And so I had spent some months before I even applied to become a notary. And so when I heard that he said something about Facebook groups, I'm like, I wonder how many other Facebook groups are pertaining to notary. So I typed notary groups into the search and man, it was so many. I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing all this research and I can actually talk to other people and ask questions. And I was like, wow, so but initially I just did YouTube and my Secretary of State website. That's all I had.
There wasn't any YouTube or Facebook groups when I joined years ago. Like that was
I bet.
non-existent. Like there was no one to ask questions. It was just you just learned. You just went out and did it.
I bet. I often thought like I wonder how notaries 20 years ago did it. Like they just had to just wing
Figure it
it,
out.
right? You just
You had to
yeah.
wing it. Like what does this like? Why does it sound like I'm reading a Shakespearean book? Like like it didn't make any sense. But hey, it is what it is.
Well, awesome, guys. I wanted to ask those questions before I got into the book because I wanted to get you comfortable with talking. I don't want to be the only one talking. I want all of you guys to talk. I want to be able to hear all of your voices. For those faces that I can see if you have responded or not. So I definitely want this to be really engaging. That's the point of a book club. We talk, we exchange ideas and opinions, and we just literally discuss what it is that we have experienced reading this chapter. Okay. So, hold on. I don't want to update. Okay. All right. So, before reading the chapter, what was your initial definition of a notary public?
Someone who notarized paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
For legal purposes and I pretty much
Someone who just stamps paperwork and verifies the signature.
Okay.
Yeah. There had to be a legal reason for them, but probably for identification. I figured like they were identifying that was the correct person. But I didn't know much of anything about notary work.
Okay. I definitely want to know what your initial definition was before you did all your research. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now that you've learned, it's going to be totally different from what you initially thought, right? So
Right.
my initial definition of notary publics were people who validate documents, and they were the ones who made sure that, we weren't doing things like we used to do back in the day when you were a kid and it was a field trip that you wanted to go on really bad and your mother or dad was going to sign the document. So you go ahead and you sign it for them. You turn it in and say, I got my permission slip right here. I know I'm not the only one who done that.
No, you are not.
So when I thought about notaries, I thought they're the ones that make sure that we don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good definition.
Anybody else want to give me their initial definition? And like I said, this is before you did any research.
I just thought it was somebody who just like stamped documents and they looked all pretty. Cause like back then they used to use like the embossers and used to see like the cute little like gold foil and stuff like that. So I just was
Mhm.
like, okay, they just stamped and signed on documents. And that was it, really.
The
Oh,
only reason
man.
I knew they had to identify people is because I worked with a gal at the airport, and she was a notary, and she was always, having to go and ID somebody with their ID. So that's the only reason that I thought that was like some kind of something fancy, but that was the only thing I knew about it.
Now that you have read the different definitions that they have for notary public, were you surprised, or did it make you want to look further into what it was that they were explaining?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it made me realize the weight of you making an error, of not being thorough, like
Mhm.
this is a serious undertaking. So
Mhm.
I appreciated that part of it.
Yeah. Why do you think that they one of the titles they give us is an impartial witness? Like, what were you guys' thoughts on that, on the impartial witness?
I think
I
it's
kind
because
of
you
wasn't
don't want
surprised
somebody.
by it.
Wait, hold on. We'll do one person at a time.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's just because like you just don't want to have someone that's gonna appear like biased, to a document, or
Mhm.
like if you have like some type of affiliation with it, it's kind of like,
Mhm.
you don't want to create a conflict of interest.
Exactly. And you don't want to be notarizing a document that you know is going to benefit you in the end in any type of way. You just want to be a document that you are notarizing, and you're making sure that the person who you are notarizing it for is the person who they say they are, and basically you being the notary, you're witnessing that that person said that they are who they are, and they actually signed this document in my presence. Right?
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. Now, what did you learn about a notary public that you did not know before reading this chapter?
I didn't realize how important it was for us to really watch out for fraud, that someone would take advantage of an elderly person and sign
Mhm.
a document and take over I didn't realize how easy it was for someone to do that to maybe a relative or someone who was bedridden or, on their deathbed, basically, and
Mhm.
how we're able to come in and kind of protect them from something like that. So I didn't realize
Yeah.
that a notary can stand in the way of something fraudulent happening to someone.
Yeah. Have you guys looked at any of the stories that they have had about notaries and the different cases
Oh
where,
yeah.
I was reading, I had shared it in a group some months ago. I think it may have been last year. I'm not sure. But it was a woman who was doing notary. She didn't keep records, okay? She didn't keep a log. And she had notarized a document for property to be signed over into this company. Like the property was being let go and given to this company, right? So this family, it was two adult children, and it was their grandparents' property, their granddad's properties. It was more than one property. Come to find out, somebody was forging the signature of the granddad, who was deceased, guys. He was deceased, signing his
Wow.
property over to the company so the company could reno it and flip it.
Wow.
Crazy. And the news person was interviewing her, and she was just like, I'm not going to talk about this right now. I don't even know. I don't even know if I ever notarized for them before. He's like, well, can we see your logs? She's like, I don't keep a log. It's like, okay.
Insane.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, wow. And I'm like, and here you are about to lose your commission because they got your face on camera with the news, and the family was suing. Luckily, the family was able to get the property back. But can you imagine somebody saying that your deceased grandfather, he's been deceased for like 5 years, signed this document a week ago saying that he was giving the property away? Wow.
You know the funny thing is, well, it's not really funny, but I think it happens more often than
It does.
reported, you know, especially like with the elderly. So it just goes undetected, you know.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
like the unfortunate side of it.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Now, are there any notaries here that became a notary for their employer?
I would say this is Keisha. I became a notary probably like 8 years ago for my company because we had to do background checks. I work in childcare.
Okay.
So I had to do notary just for that. But now I do it, of course, on my own. But that's the only reason why I became a notary, because I always had to go to the bank to get it notarized and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
So it was just easier for me to do it instead of making a trip out to the bank to do it.
Right. Okay. Now, let me see. Let me go to this. Now, what I was reading in here about notarizing, you know, being a notary for your employer, knowing that you are responsible for your own actions. So if your employer asks you to perform a notarization and it's fraudulent, or there's something is wrong with it, knowing that you are held responsible and the employer is not, like, how does that make you feel?
It's scary. So you just want to make sure everything is right and you go by the book. And
Yeah,
you don't
but
get peer pressure to do things that you don't supposed to be doing. Yeah.
yeah, but you know, you have some employers who will have you be a notary. They'll have you sign up and everything, and then as soon as they know that you have your stamp and everything, they want you to start notarizing documents. So at what point do you say, hey, you know, I need to do a little bit more research so I know what it is I'm doing by notarizing these documents? Like, I need to be able to understand how to notarize these documents, because I know it's more to it than just signing and stamping it.
I think a lot of people also fear that if they say no, like to their employer, even though like they may have paid for you to get your notary items, however, you're the person that's responsible for it, not the employer. But I think some people
Yep.
might not really say anything because there are some employers who can be really terrible, and like if you don't do something that they said, something that you want, if you don't do something that they want, then they may want to be like fire you for it or kind of like threaten you, like, you know, hey,
Exactly.
I can take it. Because I think I heard like one story where this employer wanted a notary to do something, and she kind of like pushed back, and then he didn't want, when she was leaving, he didn't want to give her her stamp,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like
Wow.
a lawsuit or something like that. So you know, you often run into those instances.
And everybody knows that your stamp in your notary logbook is your property, whether the employer paid for it or not, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, good. Good. Now, when you guys were reading this paragraph here where it says ministerial officials, what was your thought on this paragraph here?
I looked into it. I'm in Oregon, and I looked
Mm-hmm.
into it through our state website. They don't allow it in Oregon, so it didn't matter to me. We couldn't do it if we wanted to.
And I'm in Tennessee, and they just signed a bill for us to do it, but it's still sitting on the governor's desk to for him to sign off to approve it.
Now, what are you guys talking about? Because it doesn't sound like you're talking about this paragraph here.
Probably wedding officials.
Okay, yeah, so we're not talking about ordained ministers. We're talking about ministerial officials.
They're distinguished from a judge, so it's not like a judge position, but
Mhm.
you're expected to as it says right here, you're expected to exercise considerable judgment and discretion in your daily execution of your duties. So
Yes. How does that make you guys feel? Like, I have my opinion, but I want you guys to go first. How does that make you feel knowing that with all the information that we are given and are not given, we still are supposed to use some type of judgment when it comes to performing these notary actions that we're doing, notary duties that we're doing every day?
I think it's kind of basically saying we are accountable, and we are supposed to be paying attention and making good calls, making good decisions, and just like a judge has to do in a court of law.
Mhm.
And we have to make sure that we don't enter in the unauthorized practice of law and making any type of legal decisions or giving any type of advice that's
Right.
outside of our scope.
But how do you do that? Because sometimes you don't try to do it, but you end up doing it anyway.
I
You
think
know what
it
I
all
mean?
boils down to like how ethical, like ethics, right? Like, oh man, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Somebody else go back. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, when you mention ethics, I do agree with that. But it almost seems like ethically, I know that this person shouldn't be doing this, but because it's not within my jurisdiction, I should let them decide for themselves if they want to do that. Like, sometimes it can be heart-wrenching,
Mm-hmm.
but they do give you the option if you're not comfortable with notarizing something that you can decline,
Yeah, agree.
you know.
And you
But
can
then,
also refer people to get legal advice.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes, I've had to do that before. I had a lady call me, and she said that she wanted me to notarize her retirement plan or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I just asked her some qualifying questions, is it one of those documents that has any type of wording on there that you see that says notary signature or notary seal? Or she was like, no, it's not anything like that. It doesn't need to be notarized. I just want it to be notarized because I want to make sure that when I die, that my daughter will get everything that I'm leaving to her. And so I thought to myself, like, okay, well, I can't tell her, what to do. But like you said, what I did was I referred her, and I explained to her, I said, well, I just want to let you know that me notarizing the document does not make it a legal document, for one. Okay, that's not what notarizing it will do. I said, what I suggest you do is get some legal advice to see what will be the best course of action for you to take care of that, because it sounds like to me that this is a really important document and you want to make sure you get it handled accordingly, or the right way. And so she was like, so you're saying that you're not going to notarize it for me? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to notarize it for you, but I would like for you to seek legal advice. And so she was like, okay, well, I thank you so much for giving me that information. And she hung up. So I don't know if she just called another notary to have them do it. But when you mentioned ethics, that's how I felt at that time. Like, if this was my older mother, and she's saying she want to make sure she has her affairs in order when she dies. So that could be that she's maybe dying, or maybe she's sick or something. And I would just hate for me to take her money, notarize her document, knowing that that is not going to work. And then her daughter end up not getting what she said. And then here I am in trouble, because they can bring legal action against me, for whatever reason, so that's what I was thinking of.
Right. But like, to counter that, like, I know in some of these groups you would say someone would be like, well, it's not your job to, like, question it I'm playing devil's advocate here because I would do the same thing. I would refer her
Mhm.
out, but
Mhm.
well, you're just there to verify the ID, and it's not your job to question it. So you always have that group of people that it's kind of like they try not to take any type of stance, but sometimes certain situations, it makes you wonder, and if you're not comfortable with it,
Exactly. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard to not act like it's saying here, acting outside these limits. The notary risk prosecution for the unauthorized practice of law.
Correct.
So that alone is going to make you pause whenever it comes to, at least I hope so, whenever it comes to notarizing a document, you take that pause to make sure that you can, one, you can you can notarize it. It's something that is allowed in your state, according to your state law. Two, that it meets the requirements needed for a notarization. And three, that this person is getting this document notarized, for purposes intended, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, it's
I mean, somebody could
fine
ask
line.
you to notarize a piece of paper that they, wrote their grocery list on, but
yeah,
that
yeah,
doesn't mean it's worth anything. So, that's the problem is that, if it is something and she had identified to you that was a legal document in her mind, really,
right,
and
right.
you knew that's probably not a legal document.
Mhm.
So, you do have to be aware. Like,
Yes, you do. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Now, being a notary in your state and knowing what you know about bonds and errors and omissions insurance, do you think that this is important for notaries? Why or why not?
oh yeah,
Mhm.
because
Yes.
it's your neck on the line.
You're messing with serious documentation. So yes, you need to be bonded and insured.
Now,
And
when you
you
read the chapter, did you learn the differences between the two? Because some notaries I see in the group, they don't know the differences at all.
they confuse them.
Yeah.
Yeah, one is to protect the people, and one is to protect the notary.
Okay. So which ones would that be though?
The
The E
bond,
and O.
the bond protects the public, and
Mhm.
the E&O protects the notary against certain notarial acts.
And no is protect the notary.
Mhm.
Correct. Now, there are some states that don't require that. Do any of you guys live in a state that doesn't require bonds or E&O insurance?
Ohio doesn't, but I still
It
have
doesn't
it.
require a bond to be a notary?
It does not in the state of Ohio.
Wow.
In
Maryland
Virginia,
doesn't. In Maryland,
Virginia, no
either.
bond.
In
Really?
Maryland, no bond. Mm-mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then what made you guys go ahead and purchase it? Because I know for some state, like my state, for example, I was educated on bond and E&O insurance, and it is required for me to have a bond. It's not required for me to have the E&O insurance. I don't think any of the states probably require that, but I know a lot don't require the bond either. So me knowing, that I needed to get the bond, like how did you guys find out about it?
I
Well, I
found out
live in
about it through
Florida.
NNA.
Yeah.
Okay.
I live in
Yeah.
Florida, so it was a requirement for the bond. But
Right.
in Florida, yeah, it does. Like the way they word it is like E&O isn't a requirement, but
Mhm.
we also live in a sue happy society, and it
Mhm.
was just for my extra peace of mind, that I felt
Mhm.
like, okay, I need to do this because I'm just one of those just in case. It may not happen, but
Right.
just in case. And I don't want to ever be. It's kind of like if I'm driving a car, right? I don't want to be
Mhm.
driving my car without insurance, even though like in Florida you can have the bare minimum, but
Mhm.
I just don't want I don't want that what if situation to happen and then I'm kind of like screwed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's just
Yep.
like one of those things where it's like, damn it, if I had just spent that $40 or
Mhm.
$30, I could have just, like, why were you so cheap? So
Mhm.
sometimes, you know, we try to save money in certain aspects, or it's like, okay, it's not required, but I think, you know, as a business owner, you have to do your due diligence.
Yes. Yes. And owning a business, period, you want to have some type of liability coverage, no matter
Right.
what it is you're doing. If you're a business owner and you are representing yourself as a business, you should have some type of liability coverage to cover you in the event that your customer is so unhappy with your service or product that they like to bring legal action against you.
I mean, I went at the extra mile where on top of my E&O, I even took out the general liability insurance. So even though I don't have, um, you know, like I'm a mobile notary, but it
Yeah.
kind of protects me. Let's say I went to a client's house and I accidentally broke their vase or something, or, you know,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know, it was raining and my shoes was muddy and I didn't have shoe covers, and, you know, they wanted to do something. It's like that added
Exactly.
layer of protection that I would have that make my E&O doesn't cover, but at least I'm
Yes.
going to their house, so I'm covered on a different aspect.
Yes. And just so you guys know, E&O insurance does not cover you if you damage somebody's property while you're going to their house. Okay. E&O only covers you doing notarial duties.
I was
The type
also
of E&O
told,
that we're Mhm.
I was also told that you have to pay that back, that insurance. So if you get called on that, you'll have to pay that back, which surprised
Now
me
for the E&O or the bond or both.
for the bond. And
Oh,
probably for both, but
Oh, I think for the bond, I
okay.
think you do, if I'm not mistaken. I
Oh,
think you do.
mhm. So it makes you really aware then that,
mhm.
you know, this is a business and you really do have to be aware and be careful of what you're doing, because even though you are covered, it could financially affect you in the long term.
Yeah. You know, I kind of think of it as with your car insurance. You know, if you have to file a claim with your insurance premium goes up, right? And
Correct.
then that type of claim stays with you for what, 2 or 3 years. So you're paying that back. You know, like you don't think of it as paying it back, but you're paying it back. That's why they increased your premium, because
Mhm.
your regular premium plus what they increased it to is covering that amount of money that they gave you to cover that claim. So I
Correct.
would think it would be the same way with the bond or the E&O.
Yeah.
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 That's
Now,
one question I had about the bond. Is it per incident or is it every year, since you have to purchase it every year? That's one thing I still can't find information.
what do you mean? Ask that question again, because I'm confused.
So I'm in Texas, so the minimum we have to have for the bond is $10K. So if something
Okay.
happened, is that per incident or is that $10K for the entire year that you purchased the bond?
No, they want you to have, when you're purchasing your bond, that's just the bond amount, period. Like you have to have a minimum of 10,000 to cover any type of incident that occurs. I don't know about your bond, but my bond is it covers the duration of my commission. I'm in Florida.
Correct.
So I have a $25,000 bond and E&O because I'm also a remote online notary. So, and we had to increase it to that. So that covers me for all 4 years. So if any incident occurs within those 4 years, as long as it's not more than at 25,000, I'm covered. If it extends past 25,000, I got to come out of pocket. So it's not per incident, it's period. That covers for any incident that may happen within the duration of my commission. Now, if you're saying that your bond is annual, then that means that that's going to cover you for that time, from the time it was active to the time it expires and reinstates. It'll be over. You know, it'll just start over, just like your insurance. Car
But it would
insurance.
be a maximum amount of 10, that
Right.
10,000.
And if you go over 10,000, you have to come out of pocket for the remainder.
Did
That's
you
what that
purchase your
means.
bond separately from your E&O with NNA?
Yes,
Um,
I did.
well,
In Florida, it's
when I
required with the state.
when I did
State
my
application.
when I did my package, it was automatically included in the package because I just chose one of their packages. And when I
Okay.
became a notary, the amount that we have to have should just be a notary is 7,500. But when I went ahead and applied for Ron, I had to increase it. So I just called them and asked them to increase it, and I paid the difference.
Gotcha. I was just trying to get clarification because I know when I signed up for it, when I started seeing what everybody was typing online, I was like, wait a minute, I thought it was included. Did I not get it included? So then I was all like freaking out, but I never got clarification on it. So thank you.
No,
I
with
think
everybody.
it's a package,
Go ahead.
isn't it? If you
Depends on
buy
the
the
state.
package,
It depends on the states. So if you guys are in the same state, then you would be giving her the right information. But because I'm in Florida, I don't know what their package includes. I only know what my package included. And my package definitely included the bond, and it asked me if I wanted to add the E&O, which I did.
They did the same thing for Texas with their package.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, then
Same thing for
yeah.
Washington.
But what you're probably seeing people
Okay, I need to
are
double
talking
check
about,
then.
what you're probably seeing people talk about is the E&O. People are getting $1 million in error and omission insurance.
Yes, when I saw that, that's when I started getting confused because I was like, well, I thought it said that on my thing because I'm also in Florida too. But if you're saying you
Okay.
have to select it as optional, like to add it on, I don't
The
remember if I
E&O,
added
not the
that
bond.
extra or not. Right.
Okay. And yeah, just the E&O is what they asked you to add, but the bond was automatic because we have to have a bond. We're one of those states that have to. The E&O, we don't have to, but I did add mine to my package before I went to check out. And then when I had to increase them both, I just called them and they increased it and I paid the difference. Now, I wanted to hear though from those of you who are in a state that does not require a bond. How did you find out about a bond?
On the internet website.
Okay. Was there anybody who applied straight through their Secretary of State in a state that does not require a bond?
Years ago, I did when I lived in Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know anything.
Oh,
I didn't know what.
Mike, please go on mute.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can. There's an echo.
Hold on. Might be my.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's still an echo.
Someone might have on their computer and
Hold on. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have to put everybody on mute real quick. Okay. All right. So whoever was the person that was talking, you were making an echo for me as well. So maybe unmute yourself and try to talk again.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
there's
I don't
no
know.
echo.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
Okay.
When I was saying when I lived in Maryland years ago, there was no bonds. It was like you just filled out the application, you went to the courthouse, and you got sworn in. So like there wasn't. I didn't even know about the NNA. Honestly, it was kind of like just a Secretary of State website, and just filled out the application. So I mean, I did get the errors and omissions, but
But no
yeah, it
bond.
wasn't no bond. It
Did
wasn't
you
even a
even
requirement.
did you even get educated about it or got any information about it?
No, but I mean that was like that was
Wow.
so many years ago,
Okay.
like but doing things now it's kind of like you need to protect
Oh,
yourself. But there are quite a few states
yeah,
that, it isn't a requirement. So
I
it's pretty
know.
interesting.
It is. It's interesting to hear the differences between between the states and what they require. That's why I like to ask and hear you guys tell me about it. Now, from reviewing the important terms after the chapter, did you see any terms that you had noticed being used in some of the notary groups or even my own notary group that you now have a better understanding of?
No, I do know they do mix the bond and errors and omissions quite often, but
Yeah.
you know, but I don't know.
Now, I see a lot of people, they put on there that they are a licensed notary. Now, is there anybody who lives in a state where your notary commission is considered a license and not a commission or appointment?
No.
Because I always wonder why I see people say that they have a notary license when that's not what it is.
I think it's
Aya?
just I don't know, maybe they don't really do their due diligence or research. So, you know, sometimes like when people think you get like a certificate or something, they automatically assume it's like a license. It may be an oversight on their part.
Does anybody here in the meeting think that their commission, their notary commission is a license?
No.
Oh, I gotta mute again, guys, because somebody's talking. Oh, they muted themselves. Okay. Okay. I used to see it all the time, and I used to correct people, and then I stopped because I was like, you know, it's just too many people. It's just too many people calling this a notary license. It's not a license. You're not licensed as a notary. Now, you can be licensed as a signing agent because, you know, especially if you take a course, they do give you a certificate, you know, so you could be licensed or like maybe certified, but the notary commission is not a license, you know.
I think that's what confused me being new to the group was a lot of people were saying I took my test and I got certified, but they weren't clarifying like you just did that it was for a signing agent versus being a notary.
Yep. And I always try to ask people to clarify. Hold on, let me see. I have stuff in the chat. Lisa, technical issues. Jean from New Jersey. Hi, Jean. No, I don't see it as a license. Okay, right. Because it's not a license. It's a commission or an appointment. A notary, you're appointed as a notary. Your commission as a notary. You're not licensed as a notary. So I'm happy everybody here understands the difference. Now, so nobody saw any terms here that you've seen in a group and you didn't quite know what it was, and now you do know what it is. Any of these terms jog your memory? No.
The ministerial official, I think that one I didn't until I read what it was. I didn't understand 100% what that was. So I'm glad that I got to read it. But I've never heard
either.
So
yeah.
I'm with you. Me either. I never heard of anyone refer to a notary as being that. So I know now if I see it that I'm like, oh, okay, I know what that is.
yeah.
Now, did anybody get a chance to do the self-test at the chat, you know, after the chapter 1 test? Now, I know the answers are in the back of the book, but did anybody go ahead and test themselves to see if they digested all that information from chapter 1 and they knew exactly what was going on and were ready to move to chapter 2?
I did. I just got the first one wrong because of the wording.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I did as well.
Yeah,
I didn't do it. I didn't do the chapter test.
Okay. Well, we're going to do it right now. Okay. So if you guys have the book, you can go ahead and write in it. If you don't have the book, I'm going to be looking at the chat to see what you guys' answers were. Okay. And we're going to see who's ready to go to chapter 2 or not. All right. So number 1, notaries are commissioned by A, each state and given nationwide jurisdiction, B, the federal government and given statewide jurisdiction, C, each state and given statewide jurisdiction, or D, each county and given countywide jurisdiction?
C.
Nope.
C.
You got to put your answer in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Put it in the chat. How do you put
Yep.
it in the
Put it in the
chat?
chat. If you click let me see. If you click up where it says participants and then it says chat.
And if you're on your phone, it's just the little bubble at the bottom with the 3 dots if you're using your phone.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. I think. Yeah.
Got it?
I think so. Yeah. Look at all
Okay.
me stuff. Yay!
All right. All right. Everybody got C. All right. And the answer is C. Good deal. All right. Let's go to number 2. Number 2, in their jurisdictions, notaries must serve A, county residents only, B, state residents only, C, U.S. citizens only, or D, all persons. All right, good deal, guys. That was correct. D is correct.
Dang.
All right. Up. Who didn't answer D? Who
Not
put
me.
B?
I said B.
Oh, dang, Jane.
Well,
Let's see what B, state residents only.
yeah.
Well, honestly, you can notarize for anyone who has a valid identification. You just want to make sure that the document you're notarizing does meet your state requirements. So if you need to make it meet your state requirements, you just do so.
Okay, good.
All right. So number 3, above all, a notary should be guided by requirements of the employer who paid for the notary's commission, B, customers and business clients, C, state law and regulation, D, personal convenience. All right, C is correct. Good job, guys.
Personal convenience is hysterical.
Now, next time we're gonna have to do what do they do in the schools? What is it called? You guys know what I'm talking about. And they use the phone, their cell phones to do it.
They break off in group.
It's God, I can't think about it. I did it in
I know
college.
what you mean. I have to ask my son.
I can't think of the name of it, but it's Kajui or Kahoot. Kahoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Kahoot. And you can do the answers on your phone, and then it'll tell me who got the right answer. And you can't see anybody else's answer, so you could just wait for people to answer and then put it there. And I can actually see who answered correctly. We're gonna do that the next time because chapter 2, that's got some real good information. So you guys are definitely gonna have to pay attention. So we're gonna do that the next time. Okay, we're gonna do Kahoot. That's gonna be so fun. All right. Yes. I said Kajui. That's so funny. I'm like, I know it starts with a K. All right, number 4. At times, notaries must use independent judgment because A, this is expected of all judicial officials. B, this is expected of all state commission officers. C, guiding laws may be too complicated to understand. Or D, guiding laws may be vague or incomplete. Now, who put B? Jackie. Let me see. What was B? The answer is D, but let me see what B was. This is expected of all state commission officers. So the reason why we got to use independent judgment is because some of those laws are vague and incomplete. Like really, like if you've read your state handbook, you will see like you could be reading some of the laws and then you're like, what? Huh? So yeah. Number 4 was D. Now, number 5. A truly impartial notary should perform a notarial act whether or not a transaction is proper. B, whether or not personally involved. C, only when personally involved to ensure compliance with law. Or D, never when personally involved. It's okay, Jackie. All right, good deal. deal, guys. D is correct. All right. Number 6. A notary commission, A, is transferable from one state to another. B, expires after 4 years in every state. C, is issued to persons of proven integrity. D, is for use in serving clients and customers only. That was a tricky one, but the answer is C, guys.
You said
Answer
C?
was C.
Okay.
Yes. It is issued to persons of proven integrity. Now, I don't know about you guys' application, but on my application, I had to have someone sign to attest to my character.
Oh, the affidavit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yes, so it's issued to persons of proven integrity. And remember,
Washington didn't ask anything like that.
really,
Yeah, Texas,
wow.
Texas didn't do it either.
So
Well,
West
you know,
Virginia.
they also prove it by doing a background check. So,
oh yeah, they
some
did do that.
states have the extra, like Florida, I had to have an affidavit signed, but they still did a background check too. So it was like, well, whatever.
In California, it's bad. Like their stuff is ridiculous. They got to do like background check, fingerprints. You
Oh,
name
wow.
it, they have to do it. And
Wow, I heard that.
they have to take their test every time they renew, along with the 6
Oh,
hour along with the 6-hour
my
course.
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they got to repeat the whole process every
Now, I just
renewal.
renewed my signing agent certification, and I had to redo the test too.
I think if
And
you
I
do
didn't
it
like
through
that.
NNA, if you do it through NNA, you got to redo the test and the background check annually.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that. I just did it, and I was not happy about that. I'm like, darn it, I passed this already.
But you know what? I guess in a way it's good because anything can happen, and
Those were the same
you never
questions
know.
that I answered last year. Nothing changed.
Yeah, I can understand the background check, but
Right. And that's what I figured. I was like, okay, they're just going to do another background check. And then I got the email saying I had to take the test. I said, what? I said, y'all are wrong for that.
well, just be
All
glad
right,
you're not
guys.
in California.
I am. I totally am. 'Cause you guys are one of the stricter states. I keep hearing all these stories, and I'm like, whew, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be a notary there. All right, guys. Number 7. Notaries are authorized to fill out documents for others, explain documents to persons who cannot read, identify document signers, or determine the type of notarial act needed. Okay.
Can you reread the question?
Yes. Hold on just a second. Let me go back to it. Notaries are authorized to fill out documents for others. B, explain documents to persons who cannot read. C, identify document signers. Or D, determine the type of notarial act needed. Okay, everybody picked C. And C is the correct answer. So we are authorized to identify document signers. That's what our notarial act does. We're never to determine what type of notarial act is needed. We can explain to them the differences between the most common one, which is the jurat and acknowledgement. We cannot explain documents to the signers. We're not supposed to. For loan signings, we can give them a brief description, but they don't want us to explain it verbatim like that. They don't want us to do that. And we're never to fill out the documents for them either. Now, number 8. This is not a multiple choice. This is more of explaining your own words, okay? So why is impartiality an essential quality for notaries? We kind of answered that in the very beginning, but I want to see what you guys type out because some people came in afterwards. Okay, good answers. I'm waiting for the others. I got 19 people here. I only see 2 answers.
I won't let me put an answer in there.
Angelica, see. Right, Jackie. Right, KIHRS. Right. Okay. Transaction of moral integrity and ethics of the notary would support and lessen the possibility of a notary. All right. Okay. Good. Okay, guys. Okay, good job. So I guess y'all ready to move on to chapter 2. I guess y'all ready. All right. Well, that is awesome. Now, did you all have any questions about the chapter that I didn't already ask that you wanted to share with the group?
I'm just wondering if we need to have more insurance than like the standard E&O and the bond insurance. Is it a good idea to get a larger sum on that? What is the average that notaries do?
So I heard from a little birdie, and okay, so someone in the NNA was like, they know a lot of people because like like if you're a signing agent or something, like some of these title companies would say like they're not going to take you unless you're going to carry like $1 million policy. And
Okay.
like if you speak to someone at the NNA or something, the maximum amount of the policy that they may carry under E&O insurance is like maybe $100,000. So the way they said it, it was like if someone sees that you have $1 million policy versus $100,000 policy, like if someone wanted to sue you, of course they're going to try to go over to the $1 million policy, which is like the reason why they don't try to carry like a higher amount. They just carry the amount that they think is good enough for you,
Right.
for your notarial act. Of course, that doesn't cover like the NNA's E&O doesn't really cover the signing agent aspect of it, just mainly your notarial act. So I think sometimes it's up to you to use your discretion and how it would benefit you and your business. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, I have $1 million on mine, but I was just making sure that is that like for real, or did I get just talked into that?
Now, I've seen some people say in the group that the Arizona emissions insurance from the National Notary Association does not cover loan signings. So if you're doing loan signings and you have E&O insurance with them, you may want to look into another provider for that. But as far as the other insurance, the liability insurance that someone else was mentioning, that's something that you may want to do additionally, because like she said, you're going into people's homes. If you damage anything in their house, your E&O is not covering that. It's not. It's only covering your notarial duty. And if you have the proper E&O, only your side, if you mess up doing notarizing those loan documents. So if you damage somebody's home or anything, that's on you and whatever other insurance that you may have. So
for that person who spoke about the general liability insurance, can you tell us how much do they carry, or what?
I have my policy with Fiber. So when I signed up with them, I signed up for E&O policy and the general liability policy. So the E&O policy for $1 million coverage for me was like $25 and some cents. And then the general liability policy was also for $1 million coverage was $49.50. But that also covered like cybersecurity and some other couple of things they kind of like upcharged me on, but which was cool because, like from a business perspective, we do deal with a lot of like sensitive documents and other things. So it was kind of like a help. So overall, I think I paid between the two coverages about like $72 or something like that.
now is that monthly or is that per
Yeah,
commission period?
No, I pay monthly, but you do have the option. If I did, you can do annually. Annually, the general liability is like 500 and something dollars for the year, 550. The funny part about it is there was no difference with going with $100,000 coverage versus $1 million coverage. It
Wow.
literally was like a couple of cents. So like I said, that's why I went with the $100 coverage, and that was on both policies. It wasn't like if I went with $100,000, it was going to be like $15 versus $25. There really was no difference when they gave me the quote. So it just made sense because there wasn't a difference to go with the
Okay.
higher number.
So
And
you
that was with Burbeck?
a
Yeah,
million.
with Byberg.
Byberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank
have
you.
Okay.
You're
dollar
welcome.
general liability, and how much do you have in E&O?
My E&O policy, I have $1 million as well because it wasn't, the dollar amount wasn't significant enough to not carry the higher coverage for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to cover the loan signing aspect of it as well. So
Okay. Do you have your bonds with them as well?
no, my bond was initially part of my state application. So when I signed up to become a notary, my bond was initially a part of that application. So when I first signed up to be a notary in Florida, I didn't use the NNA because I think I went through the first check that was on the SOS website. So I did the American Association of Notaries because in the state of Florida, a bond is a requirement, which is and it's $7,500. Now, once I do my RON training, I do have to up that bond to $25,000. But right now, I'm just at the 7,500 for the bond.
Okay, great. Thank you for being on tonight as well.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing that information for us. Hopefully, that'll help some of us to move forward and make sure we get the right coverage, because definitely we don't want our personal finances being touched at all doing this job. Okay, so I am going to stop this recording. I'm just going to do my wrap up for the recording. I won't be exiting the meeting, but I'm doing the conclusion or the closing for the recording. Okay, so thank you all for being here tonight and discussing chapter 1 of the book, The Complete How-To Guide for Notaries, that we got from the National Notary Association. Next week, we're going to be meeting again at the same time on Tuesday, and we're going to be discussing chapter 2. If you would like to see that next video, you can go ahead and subscribe, click the bell so that you can be notified of when I post the next video. Other than that, you guys have a good rest of the evening.